Hello，你好，欢迎回来。Welcome back to Wisdom Wednesday with Johnny Tiger. The date is February 22nd, 2023. I think if you have been paying attention to Wisdom Wednesday for a while, you probably heard me talk about the Chinese ancient emperors and how what they said had to count. What they said was what have to happen. Emperors were not allowed to take their words back and go back on their promises and stuff like that. But honestly, that is for the most part just something that's been written into history and storybooks and stuff like that, as to immortalize the emperor to make it sound like that they were more than they were. Truth be told, throughout Chinese history, there were a lot of emperors that went back on their word and broke their promises. And because they were emperors, it's not like there's anything you can do to them if they do that. Right? Emperors were just as human as you and I. Just because the emperor said it's going to rain today doesn't mean that it's going to rain today. Just because the emperor said I'm going to live to be 100 years old doesn't mean he's really going to live until 100 years old. These are things outside their control. Just because the emperor said I'm going to see you tomorrow doesn't mean the emperor is not going to suddenly get up in the morning and come down with the flu or feel headache and have to cancel the appointment. Emperors were just as human as you and I, and they had a lot of things that were outside of their control. And even when it came to things that within their control, it was not uncommon for emperors to break their promises and just be, well, assholes about it. But today I want to talk about one of the relics of the imperial system that has been glorified in many, many history books and Chinese literatures and movies. It's an item that is called the plaque of uh, forgiveness, the plaque of forgiven. Um, in Mandarin, this is called 免死金牌. 免死金牌. Wait, what is a 免死金牌? 免死金牌 is something an emperor would give to someone that he really, really like, someone that he really uh, want to stay in the good books of. 免死金牌 is usually a couple lines of word carved onto a metal plaque. And the idea was that anyone who held the plaque of forgiveness um, could could be exempt. This was basically a plaque of exemption. And if you hold this, if your family have this, then it means that you are going to be exempt from death penalty. No one, including the emperor, could kill you. So this is basically like a free pass, free get out of jail card. If you have this metal plaque given to your family, then the idea was that the emperor valued you so much that you cannot be put to death, no matter what you say or what you do. 免死金牌, the plaque of forgiveness or the plaque of exemption, you can also say, uh, has been shown many, many times in Chinese literatures and Chinese movies. And a lot of times you see that so and so say, my family have a plaque of exemption. Uh, 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 then that person, that family is shown to be super badass. Like they can do literally anything they want. No one can touch them because of that plaque. But was that really the case? Was the plaque of exemption really that good? Historical record would show us that, if anything, people who received the plaque of exemption die even sooner than people who didn't have them. First, even though it's called 免死金牌, it's called a gold plaque. 金牌 means gold medal or gold plaque. 免死 免死 means exempt from death. So even though it is called a gold plaque of exempt from death, literal translation, this was never made from gold. Okay, the plaque given out was always just some metal like bronze or iron, something like that, copper. It was never gold. This it was just called a gold plaque to glorify the item because it came from the emperor. So who came out with this idea of basically the royal IOU? I owe you a big favor, so here is a metal plaque, and then this will guarantee that your entire family will be exempt from death forever. Who came up with this system? Well, the person who came up with this was none other than the Han Emperor, Liu Bang. Liu Bang was the emperor who uh, united China under the Han banner about 2,400, 2,300 years ago, around that time. Uh, and Liu Bang obviously didn't do it himself, all on his own. He had a lot of very powerful people working with him for him to get this done, to reunite China under the Han dynasty. So after Liu Bang uh, got the throne, became emperor, he was thinking, well, how can I reward these people, my friends, that helped me get here? There were seven famous generals and advisors and tacticians that helped Liu Bang. So Liu Bang was trying to think, how can I reward my seven friends? So he thought, okay, well, they're already very rich. They already have all the power they need. So what can I give them? As the emperor, why don't I give them an IOU? So Liu Bang got seven plaques made. And like I said, they were not gold, they're just metal. And on the plate were engraved. Well, I'm not going to bore you with the original word. I'm just going to give you the rough translation. On the plaque were engraved the following: even when the great river turned into a tiny stream, and the great mountain is nothing but a small pile of rock, your descendants will still have royal appreciation and royal treatment, and you will be lords and royalties until the end of time. So this was basically an IOU. Like, I have nothing to give you, but don't worry. As long as you have this plaque in your family, your descendants, your offspring, no matter what they do, they'll always be royalty. They'll always be noble. They'll always have money and wealth and power. So initially, the plaque of exemption said nothing about no death. Initially, the plaque of exemption said didn't have anything on it that say you were exempt from crime or anything. All it did was guarantee that your offspring will get the royal treatment forever, basically. Now let's look at what happened to the people that received the royal plaque that guaranteed lordship and land and wealth forever. Five out of the seven within the next few years were put to death. by Liu Bang himself. Their family killed off because Liu Bang was worried that with their wealth and power they could overthrow him easily. So 5 out of the 7 were killed by Liu Bang. The other two got lucky. They got sick and died before Liu Bang could get to them. In another word, none of these 7 actually got to enjoy this royal plaque, this royal IOU, a single bit. After putting them all to death, Liu Bang even went as far as making a rule that lasted the entire Han Dynasty that said, unless your last name is Liu, you cannot be noble, you cannot be royalty. So only people with the last name Liu could have that noble status. And it wasn't until about 300, 400 years after Liu Bang invented this IOU system that emperors started putting on the plaque things about you can be exempt from crime, you can be exempt from death penalty. But most of the time, it is not a finite, it is not unlimited number. Most of the plaque will say, with this plaque in your family, you are exempt from death penalty 10 times, or 5 times, or 3 times. It all depends on what the emperors feel like at the time. So some people that know history will say, well, Liu Bang was not a very nice emperor to begin with. I mean, he's like before he became an emperor, before he united the Han people, he was kind of a gangster, hoodlum. He did a lot of bad things like sexual harassment and robbery and all that stuff. So Liu Bang wasn't really a nice guy to begin with. So obviously, it's normal for him to go against his IOU to break his promise. Now, if it was a good emperor, then this wouldn't have happened. Ironically enough, I can name a very, very good emperor that did exactly the same thing. The the first emperor of the Tang Dynasty. Now, most of you that know a little bit about Chinese history know that Tang Dynasty was probably the best dynasty throughout Chinese history. The strongest, the most civilized, the most peaceful. There's just so much good things that came out of the Tang Dynasty. Uh, what people call Japanese culture, the katana, the kimono, and all that stuff today are still uh, left over, descendant, the copycats of the Tang Dynasty culture in China. The katana, for example, is just a rip-off of the Tang sword that were used by all the generals during Tang Dynasty. Uh, so anyway, that's digressing a little bit. So Tang Dynasty had a lot of good emperors, and the first emperor of Tang Dynasty, the guy who made it all happen, was named Li Yuan. Li Yuan. Now Li Yuan was a very good emperor. He did a lot of good stuff. And after he became emperor, he decided that the guy who helped him get there was really uh, important to him, so he wanted to reward this guy. He made him his royal minister, and then he gave him 2 plaque of exemption, each one worth 10 death sentences. So this was to say this guy could use, supposedly could use these uh, plaque to ward off 20 executions. He could do 20 serious crimes without consequences. What happened to the guy? Well, one day the guy got drunk and started to criticize a few of Li Yuan's political policies. Next day, Li Yuan ordered to have this guy, the guy who helped him to the throne, the guy who he gave 2 plaques of exemptions to, he ordered the guy put to death. While this was going down, this is how the conversation went down. The guy said, the minister said to the emperor, "Why am I being put to death?" And Li Yuan, the emperor, said, "You are being put to death because of treason." And the minister replied, I didn't do anything treasonous. I got drunk. I said something that you don't like. How is that treasonous?" Li Yuan said, when you were talking, when you were drunk, you were talking about how much you dislike some of my other ministers. Well, if you don't like them, that means you don't like who picked them. I am the one who picked them. So you're saying you don't like them, that means you say you don't like me. And if you don't like your own emperor, that's treason. And so the minister said, well, okay, fine. How about these two plaques that you gave me? Those two plaques of exemption. And the emperor said, "Oh, I'm sorry. These plaques only work if they are held by a loyal subject. Because you are treasonous, you are no longer a loyal subject. So the plaque are voided because of that." So you see, even one of the best emperors in Chinese history did something so uh, distasteful like this, breaking his promise just because his minister got drunk and said some stuff that he didn't like. The plaque, the royal IOU that supposedly means so much, didn't even save the guy. In fact, we can even look at statistically throughout the entire Tang Dynasty, there were about 100 or so people that were awarded the plaque of exemption by the emperors, various Tang emperors, and about a quarter of these people, about 25 to 30 of these people, ended up being killed by the emperors themselves or ordered to death by the emperors themselves. Obviously, the emperors didn't kill them with their own hands, but they were put to death shortly after receiving the royal IOU. And out of the rest, out of the last uh, population, about 20% of the rest disappeared or had uh, crazy accidents happen to them shortly after. So why is this a problem? Such a problem? Why is this royal IOU such a curse? Like it's supposed to be something that shows the emperor's appreciation. It's supposed to be something that shows how much the emperors respect you and like you. And why do so many people get killed right after receiving this? Well, there were two reasons for that. Number one is because some people, after they received this royal plaque of exemption, this royal IOU, people get too relaxed. Okay, now I have this. So my family, my children, uh, myself, my wife, we can say and do anything we want. So people get careless, people get cocky because they have this and end up pissing off the wrong people, primarily the emperor. So this is reason number one. People uh, believe that this is really going to save them, and they get carried away. But the more important reason, as insidious as it sounds, is that most of the time these plaques are only given out when the emperor have nothing else to give you, which means you are so powerful, so rich, so influential that the emperor literally have nothing to give you. So he had to resort to the royal IOU, the plaque of exemption, the 免死金牌, right? And this is a problem, right? Like if you're poor like Johnny Tiger, then the emperor wouldn't have to give me that. The emperor would just give, oh, here's the 500 gold. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for your service. Um, you know, if you're someone like poor like Johnny Tiger, the emperor said, "Here, here's a brand new palace, a brand new castle. Go live in it." Or here's a hundred dancing girls. Yeah, okay, well, never mind. That's not going to work. Um, but you get my meaning. Like if it's some other stuff, like horses, women, gold, silver, castle, land, servants, the emperor would have just given those things. So obviously the emperor have to resort to the plaque only when the person is so powerful that there's nothing else they want. Now when you are that powerful, you immediately become a threat to the throne. So what on the one hand the emperor want to give you this plaque to make you drop your guard and make you feel that you are the emperor's favorite person. On the other hand, the emperor is already plotting to get rid of you as soon as you mess up, as soon as you say something he doesn't like, as soon as you do something to give him an excuse. So you can say that this plaque of exemption, this 免死金牌, really is more like a bait to lure you to be careless, to trick you into relaxing because you think you're going to be exempt. But the moment you relax, the emperor put you and your entire family to death. Thank you for checking out today's very grim Wisdom Wednesday. Um, for those of you who are in the Vancouver area, I want to quickly let you know, and I will announce this again tomorrow and Friday. I will be selling my artwork this coming Sunday, February 26th, at the Vancouver uh, BMO Art Theater. The Vancouver BMO Art Theater. You can find the address on Google. It is near Falls Creek here in Vancouver. I'll be there between 1 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. So if you're local, come and say hi, and maybe you can go home with a nice piece of one of the kind, unique artwork by Johnny Tiger. All right. Thank you, and I will see you guys tomorrow.